In the shadows of the mind where secrets hide, we dive into the dark where truth collides.
Forensic minds unravel the twisted thread. True crime tales from the living and the dead.
Why did they do it? To help, for love, in anger or insane? Who will remember them? Who is to blame? The victims deserve justice. The guilty should be until the end of time. Echoes of the past in every crime.
From the profiler's chair to the courtroom fight, we seek the reasons in the dead of night.
Motives buried deep in hearts gone cold. Stories of the broken waiting to be told. Why did they do it? To help, for love, in anger or insane? Who will remember them? Who is to blame? The victims deserve justice. The guilty should be until the end of time. Join the quest, uncover the line.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I actually thought my voice was going to be a little bit better than it seems to be, but maybe it'll clear back up a little bit. I hope you all are doing well this morning. I know I have been just throwing medication at my chest and throat, and eventually it will go away. I feel certain of it. So until then, I'm going to hope that it doesn't sound too awful. The good news is I'm out of bed today. So that is something new. I feel like I've been in bed for like a week, but it's not been a week. It's been, I think, 3 days. Technically 2 days, but that first day I was still trying to like push through it, you know? So, but today's better. So, thank y'all for living through that horrible video yesterday. I know it's hard to listen to. I apologize, but I really didn't know, but how long this stupid stuff was going to last. And, so I appreciate y'all listening and hanging in there with me. What were y'all's reactions to the video yesterday? I did get some interesting feedback from some people. Thank you, Sketty. No, I appreciate that. Diane, thank you so much. We have some very kind and generous people in this community. And the gifts that you've sent for the twins is just so, I'm just so grateful. Thank you. So, yeah, it's wonderful that they're stuck in the hospital, or taking care. My daughter's not hardly leaving the hospital at all. She goes out once a day. She goes to the park and meets her 2-year-old and her husband. But she's trying to sort of keep distance from them because they don't want to introduce any kind of infections into the NICU. But she goes and has lunch with them every day, and to try to go, the area they live is, shopping is not always the easiest thing. It's a bit hard to describe. So Aspen shopping is prohibitive. It's just like, this is like $7, right? So just normal, regular purchases in that area are astronomical. So the other issue that you face is if you are out. A lot of people live like out in the like in the rural areas, the mountains and such, and there's really not any stores. It's very old school. You don't ever think about that. You always think, the snow skiing and these places that have been written about or showcased in movies as being very modern and up and coming. And they are, but you got to realize too, there are certain areas in town. It is very touristy, and you've been to Disney World and Orlando and whatnot. What you would pay in Orlando, you can drive 30 minutes up or down the interstate and pay half of what you would pay in Orlando. So to try to find preemie clothing is difficult. And then if you do find it, then it's just stupidly expensive, right? So we're not expecting these itty bitty tiny babies so early. And so the clothing that you guys have bought is, I just can't even tell you how grateful I am. Diapers, special soap because of their skin, little knit hats because they can't regulate their body temperature, the cotton and bamboo receiving blankets, again, because of the problem with the skin and regulating their body temperature. And so your gifts are invaluable. So thank you. And I'm not going to like embarrass anybody but you know who you are. And I've been in touch with you, and thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just can't thank you enough, because this was definitely a situation where it was so needed, so thank you. It's really, I can't thank you enough. Okay. So let's move on now. Jenny, I think right now they're in the ICU. The clothing and stuff has been a huge help. The blankets, the, what are they called? The swaddles, where they're these neat little bags. They put the little baby in, but then you can kind of wrap them with Velcro so that it feels nice and cozy and tight. The newborn size that the NICU had, they were a bit big, and didn't really compress them and hold them tight. They had some other premature babies in there. They were in a different area. They were out in a bassinet, whereas our babies were in the incubators. So I did get some of you guys bought the little swaddle things for preemies. So important, so valuable. Little socks that you just can't imagine. Those preemie socks are like, you could put them on your kitty. Yes, the sleep sack, Lori. Yeah. Their little socks are like doll socks. They're the teeniest little things. So right now we have some beautiful people that are been longtime members of our community that I am forever grateful for your help. So they did so great kind of getting these things together that can be used in the NICU, that my daughter can use right now in the NICU. I think maybe when they get closer to getting home, which is still I think it's still a little bit of time before they haven't even taken them out and let them be in her hospital room with her. So maybe when it's closer time for them to start thinking about getting out of the NICU or even going home, there may be some things that come up. We're kind of holding off on a lot of the NICU preemie diapers. The little girl is probably going to be in preemies a while. She's very teeny tiny. The little boy's a bit bigger. So what I'm trying to ramble and bumble and say in the most ineloquent way is let me kind of update later on. And if there's some things that come up when they get ready to go home, I'm happy to put up another like wish link or whatever you call it. But the preemie stuff was so necessary and so needed at the situation that everybody was in. I was up there with them, so I didn't really have the freedom to go and try to shop and find some of these items local. So thank you. You guys are awesome. You came through in a pinch, and man, we're just so grateful, and you're amazing, really. Okay. So I'm preparing to do a video, a live. I'm going to piggyback on a show that was done on the Interview Room, Chris McDonough's channel. Something that was said by Gary Burcato, who is also a licensed psychologist. Something that he said, and then the reaction of the side chat. And I'm preparing that video. Okay. I'm working on that live. But as I was going through the Savannah Guthrie interviews to comment on that, the real live that I'm putting together, something stood out about her, about Savannah's interview. Hey, Sage, no, you're not jumping up there and getting the cat food. No, you're being bad. Sit. Sorry, my dog is trying to jump up on the bar to eat my cat food. Sit. Thank you. Now you be sweet. You're not getting up there. No, it will make your tummy sick. No. I'm sorry. Domestic life, right? Okay. My daughter in 70 seconds, 3 pounds, 12 ounces, regular hospital for a month, got out for me to care for after that. Wonderful, Shagwell. Wonderful. Yeah, 3 pounds. Little, right? Yeah. Yes. I don't really want to. Yeah. It's those little itty bitty babies are very difficult, right? Not difficult babies, but it really, your mind has a hard time really wrapping itself around how small they are. And yeah, no, it's Shagwell. Congratulations. I'm glad that your baby is great. And that you were able to be with her fairly quickly. So good job. Okay. So I want to play this again. This just came up as I was preparing for this other live that I'm going to be doing that builds on a statement that was put out by Gary Burcato. And so let me play this. I found this comment. It didn't really stand out to me too much the first 5 times I listened to this interview. But then you start listening with different ears, right? You start, as your focus becomes on something else, confirmation bias takes over the emotion. so that you're not listening from an emotional place, from the standpoint of a daughter or the standpoint of a friend, but that you become more analytical as you're listening to these statements and these interviews. And so when I was out of that emotional place and I listened to this, I thought, wow, this is kind of uncomfortable. Right now, please understand, I'm not being judgmental against Savannah. Of all the people in this drama, Savannah to me is the most authentic. Her grief seems real. She does seem to be so deep into the throes of survivor's guilt. And, not that she would ever see this video or anything, but let me just say something. Literally, there is nothing in the world that you could have done, Savannah, that would have brought this type of insanity to your mother's doorstep. Nothing. What would be the alternative? That you not have a career, or that you just have a career, but you do not perform to your very best level, and therefore you don't reach the top of your career field? I mean, even people, let's say well, maybe people who want to be the Savannah Guthrie of tomorrow, maybe they don't ever get out of their local markets, or they may not even be able to be successful in their local market, so they start a YouTube channel. You can't aim for mediocrity if you carry with you a certain level of charisma, expertise, you're particularly intelligent, that all of that intelligence, all of that internal energy that is personality, it all will find expression. You want to know who the very smartest people are in the inner city? The gang leader, the guy who's at the top of the food chain in the gang world. He's the smartest. If I test him, he's going to be testing up around 130 on IQ. So when you are smart, it will find expression. And it doesn't matter what your immediate environment is. If you live in the inner city, you become a gang lord. If you live in the country, you become, a cattle rancher making millions of dollars a year. If you live in the urban life, then you become a president of a bank or CEO of a large company. So it doesn't matter what the environment is. If you are smart, if you have charisma, if you carry these things with you, it will in fact find expression. Okay. So Savannah, there's not anything you did do that caused this insanity on your mom. And that is what took place. The people that did this to Nancy Guthrie are people that are outside the norm. Their thought processes are dramatically different than mine and yours. We see what he did to her, to Nancy. And we think, this is crazy. This is so horrifying. I would never approach somebody's house in the dark in the middle of the night. I would never just drive up and get out of a car and walk up to the front door under cover of night. Never. For one thing, I'd be scared to death. I'd see a shotgun at my nose, right? So the fact that this person even got all dressed up at their house or wherever they were, they got all dressed up, they put their I think the person has 2 ski masks on. They have multiple levels of clothing on, in my opinion. They were trying to hide their form. But the fact that they would stand there and they would put this clothing on and look at themselves in the mirror and say, yes, this is good. This is the uniform of my profession. Does this sound normal to you? Would anybody dress like that in Arizona? Dress like that in Arizona and then say, okay, I got my uniform on. I'm ready to now go out into the world and do my job. No, nobody, no normal or even close to normal would anybody do that. You would look at yourself in the mirror and you would think, this is crazy. I look like a crazy person. This is nuts. What am I thinking? What am I thinking? What am I doing? I could wake up tomorrow morning in jail. What am I thinking? So right off the bat there, it's crazy. It's insane. It's nuts what they did. And I don't care what the motive was. You know, if I need to make more money, I do an extra YouTube video. I mean, if I need to make money, I make a YouTube channel. If I need to make money, I try to figure out how to add more patients to my schedule. If I need more money, maybe I look around my house and put some stuff up for sale on eBay. If I need to make more money, I go and get a weekend job, right? Just like you. If you need more money, you figure out a way to earn that money in a acceptable, lawful manner. That's normal. That's what we mean when we say normal, what the majority of the population will do. When do people do things like armed robbery? When do people make a choice to go outside of normal? Desperation, right? If you get desperate, if you're a drug addict and you realize you've got 2 more hours before you become dope sick, and you know what that hell on earth is like, you might very well walk up to some well-dressed person and put a gun to their head and say, give me your purse or give me your wallet. Or you might go into a convenience store, give me some money. I don't even care how much is in there. Just give it to me. I need a hit. All right. If you need big money, you have a sick kid in the hospital, your house is going into foreclosure. Maybe you devise a plan to rob a bank. Or maybe if you're crazy, if you're abnormal, you say, you know, I know this really rich person. I know this really rich person that has a really close, loving relationship with their mother. And I think she would be enticed to give up some of that cash in order to make sure her mother is safe. Right? So Savannah and the virtue signalers and all those people running around on YouTube saying, no, God, no, you can't talk about that. No, my God, oh my God. Stop. Slow your roll a little bit here. The people that are here having these discussions, they're not being had for nefarious, harmful, hurtful reasons. These are discussions that are happening because it's human nature, and you ask yourself, why is this such an abnormal situation? There's been plenty of cases that have occurred that come and go because they're not so abnormal, because the cops move in and they solve the crime fairly quickly, like Corey Richards, right? You didn't get a large following with Corey Richards. It was pretty clear what was happening. It was pretty clear. It was desperation of the highest order, right? It included infidelity, stuff, drugs. But these cases like Lori Vallow, the murder of J.J. Tylee, Charles, Chris Watts, killing two little toddlers and a pregnant wife when you have like the perfect life. Those are the cases that attract all this attention, right? Because of the mystery, because they're abnormal. It's not the usual. That's why. It's not because the people who recognize that it's abnormal are bad. They're not evil people. We've discussed this. We're not evil people. We're not trying to hurt the victims that are affected in these situations. We're astounded by the unusual nature of the crime. We're not worried about how many drops of blood or how gory or how awful the crime was. We're curious about the things that are so far outside of normal that we can't even wrap our head around the reporting that is happening on the case. And so we start looking into it ourselves. We start looking to verify some of the things, let's say, that Sheriff Nanos has said. And I'm sorry, virtue signalers, Sheriff Nanos has proven himself to be unreliable. Now, here's the reaction they're going to have. But he doesn't owe you anything. He doesn't owe you facts or reporting. Agreed. 100% agreed. Nobody out there who's doing a responsible true crime YouTube channel, nobody out there is saying the cops owe us information. No, we fully respect that things have to be, information has to be protected, related to a successful prosecution, correct? But you don't even know what you're saying, because it's Sheriff Nanos directly who has destroyed the ability to get a successful prosecution here. He destroyed that ability. He single-handedly, he ruined any utility that could have been gleaned from the blood evidence. You didn't think about that, did you? But you get, by all means, you get mad at me or others like me, but Gary Burkotto or Chris McDonough or Deception Detective. You get mad at those of us that recognize that something is happening with this investigation that is so far outside of normal that it requires commentary. There's something wrong in this story. There's something wrong. And if the virtue signalers, if they want to attack and say, you shouldn't be talking about this, you shouldn't be talking about alternate lines of inquiry, you shouldn't be talking about possible theories of the abduction, you should leave that to the professional investigators. Why? Don't I have a working brain? I'm a licensed psychologist. I'm a trained professional. I can think. That's the only thing that I'm alluding to is just, I do have actual evidence in my life that I'm not a crazy person. I have evidence in my life that I can think logically and rationally, right? I have evidence by way of a license that I'm not a hurtful person. I am responsible with information. there's a lot of things I choose to never bring up on my channel, but there are some things that you got to acknowledge as abnormal. And as I got away from the emotional mind, the daughter or the mother or the wife, so I moved away from that. And I started listening to this interview from a more analytical point of view. Something really stood out to me. I felt that there was some manipulation in this interview. Is the manipulation of Savannah? I kind of think yes. I think Savannah has been manipulated. And therefore, when we are listening to her talk, it feels like we are the problem, that we're the bad people. So here's the strange comment that it didn't seem strange to me when I first heard it. I just thought, oh my God, this is so horrible. What a terrible nightmare. What must that have been like to be there? But then when I listened to it from an analytical perspective, I said, wait a minute. They're back to their old tricks trying to stop social media from commentary. Well, why does the Today Show, NBC, why do they have any interest in making social media stop talking about this? I can tell you, money, views. That's what it is. Because the YouTube realm, or let's say social media realm, who's making commentary, our views are higher. We get more engagement than what they're getting. They've declared war on us, right? So this was, I think, an opportunity for NBC to make money. I think they exploited this woman, Savannah. They exploited her in a way that is unforgivable to me. It's unforgivable. You had no right to put this woman's horror and grief on display and ask these damn questions that were just gross. You probably interfered with the investigation. And that is far more damaging than anything I've ever said or done on my channel, anything that's ever been said or done on any of these other true crime channels. This was exploitative for the virtue signalers out there. This was exploitative. But you know what you guys did? You sat there with your popcorn and your Diet Coke and you ate it up. Oh, it's just so sad. Just look at how crushed she is. Bless her heart. With no discernment that NBC is literally interfering with an investigation by doing this. But keep coming after the little YouTubers. Keep coming and saying that we're bad. Keep on. I'm not going to sit around and take my cues, my messaging from the Today Show. I'm not going to say, okay, I better not talk about anything if it wasn't discussed on NBC. NBC is not exactly proven themselves to be the determiner of ethics or morality. I'm not even going to take my lead at this point now today. I'm not going to take my lead from Sheriff Nanos. He's proven that he's irresponsible and doesn't know what he's doing. He's proven it. It's proven. He's acted it out. But the virtue signalers love it. They love that. Oh, these horrible people, these grifters on YouTube, these tragedy pimpers on YouTube talking about the case. You shouldn't be doing it. Why? Why not? Why shouldn't we? You tuned in to this interview and you ate it up. Every tear that fell from this woman's eyes, you ate it up. This was exploitative at the highest level. She is not responsible right now for what she says. She is so overwhelmed by survivor's grief. She is so racked with guilt because she wasn't there with her mom. She's probably kicked herself thinking, I knew I should have brought my mom with me to come live with our family. I knew it. That she is in no shape, no condition whatsoever to do one of these interviews, this live broadcast or this broadcast that they put out in 3 parts to capitalize on income. That's what it was about. She's being manipulated. She's being handled. And you guys were the audience. Me too. I did too. But those of us that watch this as observers, not interferers. I'm not interfering in an investigation. I'm not interfering with a jury. I'm giving my opinion. No different than if I was sitting in my own living room, if I was at work at the water cooler, chit-chatting. I can do that. I can give my opinion. I can give my thoughts on how this information affects me. That doesn't have any effect on an investigation, but this, they let out information that never should have been let out. And it was all for ratings. It was all for money. But listen to the hit. Listen to the hit that they took on people that are interested in the story. It's unbelievable. I couldn't believe this.
Our matriarch. She's all we have.
Savannah and her family stayed together in Arizona for weeks as the media coverage grew more intense.
We had to move houses many times because people came and not everyone is respectful, unfortunately. You know? Mm-hmm.
What is she talking about? There was not a single word with all that media coverage that was out there. There was like mainstream media, YouTubers, just like neighbors, right? Nobody said anything about any kind of altercation. Nothing. I think this really stands out to be as manipulative because the sheriff, in all his, whether it's corruption or idiocy, I don't know what's wrong with the man, but he releases a crime scene. There's blood. There's blood. There's blood at the front door, on the inside of the house and on the outside of the house. Egress. This is how they left, right? There's blood. The back doors are propped open. What are you going to tell yourself if you're just a lowly police officer, been on the job 1 day? Ooh, this looks suspicious. I'm not going to worry about that blood on the front porch. I'm not going to worry about that blood that's in the entryway. I'm not going to worry about that. I think this is the case of an old lady who wandered off into the night between the Joshua trees and is now been sucked up into the great land of the desert night. Just going to ignore all the blood. Not going to worry about that. Just, she walked away. Who does that? Who does that? Say what you will. How dare you say mean things about the great Sheriff Nanos? 300 100 deputy sheriffs in Arizona said no confidence. Unanimous vote. No confidence in this clown. None. He wanted his investigations to be a part of a reality TV show. But he released the house. He didn't secure it. He said, okay, work's done. Been here 2 days. We're out of here. Ooh, but supper's done. Got to get home. Mama's waiting on me. He releases it. And what happens then? What happens? Yeah. Brian Entin walks up onto the yard, films the blood, films the adult services card that's by the door, the flowers. He gets it all there. Only after he went up there did then JLR go up and start knocking on the door. There were people that did go up onto the crime scene. It was a crime scene, guys. It was a crime scene that the sheriff left wide open. How long did the Aurora police have the Chris Watts house on lockdown with posted law enforcement guarding it? This was mindless. So now we've got Savannah Guthrie being exploited by NBC Today Show for money, for no other thing except money, clicks, views. That's the only reason to do this. They got her up there. Now listen to this story that she's about to tell. I think she was manipulated. I think it was bullshit. I don't think it was real at all.
There was a night we had to leave in the dark in the desert, holding hands, me and my sister and brother and I.
Very dramatic, isn't it? So you're telling me you're in a house with law enforcement there. Your brother was a fighter pilot. Tommaso's there. And you've got personal security with you. And you're saying that things got so dicey at the house that you were staying in. Like it must have been like Benghazi or some crap, right? You guys must have been surrounded. Molotov cocktails being thrown, right? But then she goes on and she says, we had to leave in the dark. We were holding hands. It was so scary. Why? Because the media was there? Because there were YouTubers? Dolly? Like what was the fear? Like what happened? Did they come up and ring the doorbell? Were they screaming and chanting? Listen, I'm not gonna lie. If I had been Brian Laundrie's sister, if I had been Brian Laundrie's mom and dad, I would have been scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'd have been terrified. The way that JLR and Molly Golightly and Bullhorn Betty, the way they acted, the screaming and the remember when they were playing the recording of the crying baby over the loudspeaker? Oh, horrible. So we definitely have had circumstances where this nutty group has gone out there and done things that were abnormal. And what did the majority of YouTube true crime do? We called it out. We said, absolutely not. This is unacceptable on every level. No, we can't do this. No. But Brian Entin was so dialed into this case. Brian Entin was so dialed into this case that he was given the knowledge for where the SWAT raid was going to go down. He was able to go into the neighborhood, just sit in his car with the lights off. He was the only one that got any footage, and he did not interfere. So he's talking to someone. Someone trusts him. Was it the sheriff? Maybe. I don't know. Someone trusts him, right? Do you believe for a minute, that there are crazy YouTube critters milling around the house where Savannah Guthrie and her family members are basically in grief, waiting to find out some kind of information about their mother? Do you want me to believe that Brian Entin would not have reported on that? You think he wouldn't have known? Oh man, Brian, have I got a story for you? This is Sheriff Nanos. Remember I told you about the SWAT raid? Well, listen to this story. Last night, 2 a.m., we had a bunch of crazy media and YouTubers and TikTokers, and it was just like January 6th on the house where Savannah Guthrie and her family were staying. It was terrifying. My deputies couldn't even get to the house. That's right. It was a riot out there. They were in fear of their life. We had to sneak them out under cover of darkness, holding hands, huddled together like a military type of incursion. You think Brian Entin would have reported that? Please, I believe that. There was nothing like that happened in this case. There was egads of media. They were lining the streets, yes. Yes, the neighbors were pissed off about all the people that were in their neighborhood. I would have been too, okay? But to say that you have to leave your home in the middle of the night, huddled together, holding hands because you were under assault, do you think that's going a little too far? So I think Savannah Guthrie is a liar. If Savannah Guthrie were a liar, she never would have made it to the level she is at. I don't think she's a liar. Did they lie to her? Did someone tell her, we have threats against you? This is where we have a dangerous situation that is developing. We need to get you guys out of here. Yeah. Sheriff Nanos at work again.
Get into a car waiting for us because the people outside were closing in.
We found the people outside were closing in. As evidenced by what, Savannah? Like, did you ask what they were talking about when they're telling this? Did you look through the curtains to see what, JLR was doing out there on the road, or Tucson 857? Like, what were they actually doing? They were sitting on the tailgate of their truck, I think, right? What do you mean the people outside were closing in? Was it loud? Were they shining spotlights on the house in the middle of the night? Like, what was it? How could it be dark if they're all like coming for you and closing in? Do you see? And watch Hoda's reaction. Watch how Hoda's body language, how she reacts to this. This is a farce. This was a moment that was clown-like. And again, I want to be very clear. I don't think Savannah's lying. I think she was told this by someone wanting to send a message that the media, the social media, that we're out of control, that we're dangerous people. And the only people that benefit from that are NBC, mainstream media, because their views have gone dramatically low with the rise of social media, right? They have a stake in really reflecting on YouTube, TikTok, and whatnot as being dangerous and irresponsible. They have a stake in that. They're trying to keep their industry alive, right? They benefit. But what about the sheriff who released a crime scene after 48 hours? What did he have an interest? Maybe he didn't want our reporting out there. Maybe he didn't want people showing inconvenient truths. Listen to this again and watch Hoda's reaction. This is comical.
The people outside were closing in. So we found a place that was...
Oh, it's just such a horrifying thought. Oh, it's so terrifying. Okay, why didn't it get reported? That would have been a huge story. That would have been a huge story. Brian Entin would have done a magnificent job showing the out of control, crazy media that were storming Savannah Guthrie's safe house. I just don't understand this. It feels so manipulative, and it's so exploitative of her, of Savannah. It's wrong. And Hoda's reaction, oh, that's so scary. I just can't imagine. What can you imagine? If this had been reported on with Brian Laundrie, I'd have been buying it hook, line, and sinker because we saw it, right? But there was so much media, independent media, the YouTube stuff, in addition to mainstream media, that was there for weeks and weeks and weeks. They were showing everything. They started interviewing each other. It's crazy. So why didn't we get this story?
Safe, and then we couldn't really leave too much. So like those days are a blur.
Yeah.
Now what? I didn't get that, Savannah.
So we found a place that was safe, and then we couldn't really leave too much. So like those days are a blur.
Yeah.
Crying and praying.
How did your family feel about the way the investigation was conducted?
Okay, so a great segue, wasn't it? It was a great segue from the place that you were saying was stormed by crazy YouTube, TikTok, social media, true crime people. So y'all were in danger. It required a military operation to get you out under cover of darkness. And you were holding hands with your brother and sister, and you were just praying for your life because of those out of control YouTubers. Now, how did you feel about the reporting? No, I'm sorry. She says investigation, and then they go into reporting.
Well, it's still going.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
people have worked tirelessly. And we see that. But we need answers.
I would agree with that.
We cannot be at peace without knowing. And someone can do the right thing. And it is never too late to do the right thing.
He keeps repeating that in all of the other comments that she's done. It's never too late to do the right thing. You can do the right thing. Is that what you would say to a crazed masked kidnapper of your 84-year-old mother? Would you even have the expectation that they would do the right thing? Or is that something you would say to someone that you thought had humanity in them?
And our hearts are focused on that.
I think where Savannah ended that, it's not too late to do the right thing, is really, I think, the intent from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think she was a fantasy was that someone sees it, someone who saw someone who knows someone who will say something, because, you know, I think she really, this is all about being Nancy.
Well, it's still not
Is
the
it
case.
is that really what it is, Hoda? Because it really doesn't look that way. It looks like it was all about getting views. Okay, so she mentioned an apology letter. She knows. Requiem. It's another great point. Does a crazed, abnormal, mentally ill person who will put on multiple layers of clothing to hide or manipulate their form, who will put on ski mask or two ski masks, who will put a gun in the very front, right? You think that's what that person is going to think about? Do the right thing? Are they going to respond? That person who's willing to get dressed and stand in front of a mirror and see themselves looking like that before they walk out the door to go steal an 84-year-old lady. You think that person is going to go, ah, doggies, she died, she gone. Boy, I hate that. I was really beginning to like old Nancy. Granny Nancy. Yep. Sure was missing. Man, I'm so sorry she died. I can't believe she died. What? Well, I better apologize. I did a bad thing. I better apologize. What? No. You dress up like that. You have a gun. You put two masks on. You go to somebody's house 2 a.m. You break in. You knock them around so badly they end up bleeding. If they die, you're like, oh, well, hell, she died. How are we going to hide the fact she died? Because if they find out she died, we don't get our money. Sorry. Nope. Don't believe it. I got a brain. I can use it. Who apologizes? Normal people, right? Normal people who feel guilty about what they've done. That's who apologizes. The kind of person who would take an 84-year-old person has no conscience. Yes, Nancy Drew. That type of an appeal to do the right thing, it would only resonate with a normal person who has a conscience. Exactly. Absolutely true. Sketty Nona, costume, performance, manipulation, staging. Constant coverage with nothing new to say. We're being handled. Yeah. And then when people like Chris McDonough and a panel full of notable professionals, detectives, a clinical psychologist who does all forensic psychology, when they have commentary about what's happening, people come out and say, oh, you're so irresponsible. You're so irresponsible to talk about these things. The sheriff is leading this investigation. He didn't say these things. Okay, I don't care. He is not a credible law enforcement official any longer. You don't release a crime scene. How do we know it was a crime scene? Blood. in the house and outside the house. That's how you know it was a crime scene. If she didn't show up at a hospital, it was a crime, period. I have diversion fatigue. I do too, Skinny Nona. Well said. The gas station next to my job has an exact mask like the purple wore. It's knitted and I suspect it would be stifling. Sure. I'm fatigued by mainstream. I don't even listen to any of the news online anymore. I don't even listen. If I want to learn about what's happening in Iran, I go to a YouTube channel called 2C TV. This is a man who is Iranian who is reporting on the ground what's actually happening, right? I don't do that. I'm tired of them believing that, them using their influence to manipulate people. And the very fact that you have 50, 60, 70-year-old people who say, well, they did not report that on the news. It can't be real. That is scary. You're brainwashed. If you believe that those people on TV are telling you the truth, you're brainwashed. They're telling you what they want you to think. They're trying to get you to buy their products. They're trying to get you to come back to their channel so that they get the views. I'm talking about channel on television, to watch Fox, not CNN, or to watch MSNBC, not Fox, or whatever the wars are. The panels they've started doing where they scream and yell at each other, it's all just emotional manipulation. They're sucking you into the madness. They're not being heroes. How many people said, I'm voting for Donald Trump because I'm tired of the endless wars? How many people said that? They convinced you that Donald Trump was against the Ukraine war, that he was against the Middle East wars, that he wanted to put all of his energy and time into the US, right? What's happening right now? Oh, we're back with Israel, blowing things up. Look, and I've told you, I'm all for getting that Gulf Arab bullshit out of Iran. Reinsert the king, give the Iranian people their lives back. They were literally taken over by Islamist terrorism. Literally. If you had gone to Tehran in 1978, you would believe that you were in Paris. This was one of the most beautiful areas in the world. The people, highly educated, the men and women, drop dead, gorgeous, good looking people. The women were so fashionable and so gorgeous and so well educated. And the Gulf Arab psychopaths, these religious psychopaths, they come in, they manipulate the people. First of all, it was all focused on poor people and men. You've been lied to, you've been robbed, you should be king of your castle. These old bad old ladies are taking your place in the world. Sound familiar? And then when the time was right, they went after the leadership of the country. And once the Shah, the religious leaders were installed, they took over this country. Once they were installed, then the Islamic Sharia law bullshit began. And now women are cattle. The leaders of their country, literally, women are cattle. God made them, or Allah made them look like humans so that men would not be afraid of them. But you need them to have babies. That's the only utility for a woman, is to have babies. Women are not even pleasurable sex objects. I know, I studied the whole thing when I was there. They're not even sexual objects to this Islamist regime. So we're not gonna break down into this discussion, but manipulation of the masses. It's achieved over the airways. You need to go listen to Chase Hughes. Chase Hughes is retired military, but he is a behavioral expert, and you've got to listen to his discussions on how messaging affects the group, all the people as a single unit. We are being manipulated through that television. And you say, well, Jules, what's the difference between like what we're doing here on YouTube? Why isn't this manipulation? It can be. It can be, but we don't have that reach, right? Only a few channels have that big multi-million people reach that the television has. You have the freedom to leave and go to a different channel. Here's another huge difference. We typically in the true crime community, we put out long form content, right? We put out long form content, which is an hour or more of discussion. That's not very effective for manipulating people. The small snippets, we had to leave the house in the dark. They were closing in. We were holding hands. It was terrifying. How long did that take me to say it? 30 seconds. Boom, bow, maximum emotion, little to no logic. It's illogical. It's illogical. You know, this family is there and they've had a terrible crime committed against their family. Savannah Guthrie has private security. She just does. I'm sorry. She has private security. You have a sheriff's department who is tickled to death to have a famous rich person there under his control. So you don't pick up the phone and say, hey, this media group out here is getting really wild. Do you think you could come and help us and make them go away? And what do you think would have happened? What would have happened? Would Savannah Guthrie and her family have been huddled together? Oh, don't look. It's dark. Nobody can see us. Shh, don't talk. We don't want to alert them that we're sneaking out. That wouldn't have been necessary. You sit there, you call 911, your personal security is at the door, and you say, hey, look, we're safe. We got personal security outside the house. But do you think that you could send some of your sheriff's department over here and ask these people to move back off of our property, please? How would you have handled it? I wouldn't have needed to be huddled together, holding hands under the cover of darkness and fear because they were closing in. No, sorry, not real. It's not real. It was manipulative. Go watch Chase Hughes. He's awesome. All right, I gotta go. You guys have a wonderful day. I am working on a bigger video that I'm excited about. So a couple of days to get it all together. But thank y'all for being here. I appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not already. I don't have a regular upload schedule. So if you subscribe, then you'll get notifications when I do have something go up or I'm live. What else? There was something else I was going to say. Share on your social media. Thank y'all so much for being here. Go watch Chase Hughes. He's really great. His content is pretty amazing.